Yeah, I'm still struggling to figure out how to. Oh, here we are. About anonymous questions. Q&A. Let's get this chat working so we can talk to each other. Welcome, everybody. Okay, we are live on the chat. See if you can open it. Click to everyone. And see if you could say hi, who you are, and where you're coming from. All right. Hi, Margaret and Andrea. Welcome, everybody. Tell us where you're coming in from. Hey, Michael from Milwaukee. Detroit, yes. I see Minneapolis, North Carolina, Norway. Welcome, Valerie. Denver, Colorado. Hey, everybody. My name's Lorna Dune, and I'm going to be your host tonight. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes. If you're just arriving us now, make sure to open the chat. Tell us who you are and where you're coming in from. Can you hear this record playing right now? Do you know what record this is? She's the reason we're here today. LPGOB. So let's get started. I think we've got a big group tonight. Thank you all so much for joining. My name is Lorna Dune, and I'm an Ableton certified trainer, sound designer, sonic researcher. That's my newest title. Exploring ways in which sound can actually induce healing in the forms of PTSD, ADHD, focus. How can sound impact us on an emotional, psychological, and physiological level? That's where my career's been headed, but it all started with Ableton Live, and I love teaching Ableton Live to people of all backgrounds. Today is somewhat of a beginner workshop. We're going to go over just an overview of Ableton Live 12 and the Push 3, getting used to the user interface, and ideally getting you to a place where you feel confident enough to be able to get started and get some of your creative ideas not only recorded, but ideally exported and put out into the world somehow, some way, live performance. You could do so much with Ableton Live. So thanks so much for joining. For those of you who just joined, I'd also like to ask that you open the Q&A box as well. And that's where I'm going to be able to interface with you on what questions you might have. So is anybody new to FemHouse here? Has anybody never heard of FemHouse? This is their first time coming into some of their educational work. All right, some newbies. Well, you all are quite lucky. FemHouse is a wonderful, wonderful organization. It's a 501c3 nonprofit fostering equitable opportunity for women and gender expansive individuals in the technical and behind the scenes areas of music. They're creating the future producers like you, mixers, engineers, DJs, artists, and executives of the industry by providing education, scholarships, cultivating community, propagating visual representation, and offering professional development opportunities. So many of them are free too, like tonight, totally free. And actually, this was originally supposed to be an in-person meeting in Detroit. So for all my Detroit people, I want to give you some love in the chat. I'm sorry we weren't able to make it to your city last month, but the good news is that we all get to be here together today. I'd also like to take a moment to ask if anybody here is joining us from LA and just sending out our prayers and love to you all. This is a rescheduled, second time rescheduled workshop we canceled last week due to the fires and trying to honor people's struggles and create some space to be there for others. So with that, I think it's been interesting. It's an interesting year. And I don't know if you have any goals this year for your musical life. I find that music is a very therapeutic practice, even if you never release music out into the world. Um, and I just engaging with Ableton Live is just has opened up so many career paths for me. I've worked in TV, sound design, software design. I've taught Ableton classes in colleges, and it's been a really wonderful career path. I started as a pianist too, and DJ, but that's where it all comes together is in Ableton Live. We're going to be working with Ableton Live 12 today. If you don't have Ableton Live, there was a link to a 30-day free trial. And I believe that with this RSVP for this course, you also gain access to a number of other classes as well. So make sure to check your email from FemHouse. So Ableton Live 12 came out, and there are a ton of new features. And I'm sure some of you are already longtime live users, but we're going to try to make this welcome for everybody. I'd like to start out by just showing some of the highlights of Live 12 because this will be a sneak peek as to what we're going to be learning right now. All right. You got it all? You don't even need this workshop anymore, right? Um, cool. Well, that was the intro to just like a sneak peek as to some of the things we're going to learn about today. Let me take that screen away and hopefully you could see Ableton Live open here. I know it looks so much fun. We're going to have so much to cover tonight, but don't feel like you have to know everything. There's so many different resources actually before I close that. I mean, you can go to Ableton Live's website, go to Live, Learn Live, and there's so many videos. You don't have to go to YouTube necessarily. I think honestly, facilitators and workshops and places where you can work with one another, I wish we could talk to each other right now. All we have is the chat and the Q&A. I can't do anything about raised hands right now, but if you do have a raised hand, make sure to put in your question. But these are some great resources to continue learning. But with that, are you guys ready to dive in? I don't know if it's helpful to open up Ableton Live on your session or if maybe there's not enough screen space. Can you see the screen okay? Like you can see my gigantic mouse. And I just want to make sure it's comfy for you all. And I switched my camera to my push controller here, but I can also switch back and forth and make sure I can say hi to you all. So with that, let's go. Here's Ableton Live 12 open. Nothing's in it. I don't have any ideas yet, but I'm just wondering, as I've used this for so long, like where is the best place to start? And I'm kind of like a big kid. Whenever I see a new instrument, I just want to touch it and make sound and maybe break it right away. So I think the best place to do that is going to our library. This is going to be where all of your sounds, your drums, your instruments, audio effects, and more. You can even get way more techie and start building your own instruments and effects in Max for Live. Keep track of samples, get external plugins, that sort of thing. This is where to jump into. So, making sure that I actually have sound set up. I guess I do have to do a more boring thing first. Go to live settings. We're going to go to audio and then check our input and output devices just to make sure that we're getting sound. Now, I need an audio interface because I'm using this microphone that's picking up my acoustic voice and then it's converting it into analog format in my XLR cable. And then it's going into my audio interface, this beautiful red Scarlett 18i8, which is now turned into a digital format for me to record. You'll need to be able to change your input to output when you're recording. And also it's good to set up your audio flow so you can hear. Just a small digital audio history or description. The sample rate. This is always kind of interesting. I'm always blown away by this whenever I think about it. So, do you know like the old cartoon flip books where, it's like one image and that's copied, but it's like slightly moved. And when you flip through it, even though they're all separate pages, you get this feeling, this illusion of it moving, of pictures, the moving pictures. Well, it's the same thing with digital audio too. We have samples, and this is how many samples per second is happening of digital audio. Right now it's at 44.1, 44,100 samples per second. You can go higher. And then latency is the time that it takes to convert between all of these realms from acoustic to digital to and then back again so that we can hear each other and be able to work in this digital audio workstation. So this might be a helpful area to look. The buffer size is like how many of those samples is the computer processing at a time. And the higher up you go, the more latent you're going to be like playing a keyboard and then it's going to take 0.26 milliseconds before you hear it. So you might start noticing it when it gets above like zero point 0.5, depending on how sensitive your ear is. Okay, enough nerdy stuff. Oh, we're gonna have lots of nerdy stuff tonight. Let's look at what Ableton Live gave us. We have two MIDI channels and two audio channels. Now let's get into our library a little bit. I'm gonna go to instruments and let's see what they gave us. Each of these are like parent folders, and you can stretch and move these windows. It's actually so much is modular in Live 12. You can also use this icon to hide your library. And when you click on any of these instruments, you'll notice that there's a little piece of audio that's down here that gives you an audition of what that sounds like. It's usually too loud for my ears, so what I'm going to show you next is this solo button right here. Just, it's blue, blue. Just connect the blues. This is like your Q headphone volume. And so let's just turn it down a little bit and turn this back on and see if we can. This is how you audition new sounds. As you go through, it depends on what version you have. This is Live 12 Suite, so I have a lot of instruments that maybe not everybody has. But when you do find something that you like this new synthesizer from Live 12 called Meld, you can right click and select a favorite or assign a color so that next time you come to Ableton Live, you can just go to your favorites and be like, okay, I know that I love this sound. And so now I know that I love this sound. How do I play it? I'm going to switch my camera over so we can get into some MIDI controller push 3 business while simultaneously doing DAW work. So this is a MIDI instrument, and so I know that I can click and drag it onto a MIDI track, one that's already there, or I could click and drag it onto this empty space over here. So let's click and drag it onto that first MIDI channel. On my push controller, I have a couple different views, and in this view, I can actually start playing it right away. Notice that I'm controlling the volume with this fader right here. Also notice how this, I didn't even have to do it. I loaded an instrument and this button turned to red. Now, I'm actually gonna press my question mark button. Um, you guys aren't hearing this? Can anybody hear this? Okay, let's check our settings. I think we're just gonna have to go straight to Zoom. Okay, let's see how this sounds. Now, can you hear it? Oh, that's no good. Hmm. I wonder why that would be. Zoom. Hmm. Let me just open up a new session and just troubleshoot this audio issue just to make sure, because otherwise we're out to sea. So yeah, this push 3 is an audio interface and or this push 3 is a MIDI controller rather, and also it is an audio interface. Um, and okay, I think this should work now. Hold on a second. Let's just try to troubleshoot this because if you can't hear, that's a problem. Okay, let's try this. Ooh. You can hear something? Okay. Now I can't hear it. There's a feedback loop though. Yep. That's definitely a feedback loop. Hmm. I'm so sorry about this, you guys. So we have live 12 going through. This is all shared. Let's try this one more time. This is going to Zoom. It's going from here. And you currently cannot hear this. How about now? There we are. Oh, thank the Lord. Okay, let's get some musical healing going. So let's go back a little bit. I wanted to explain this push controller a little bit more. This is a push 3 and it seamlessly works with the interface and it can adjust depending on what instrument you're using. Here I have a drum rack. I love working with drum racks. I like making my own drum racks, and that's exactly what I did with this one. I found a 606 hi-hat. I love the 606 hi-hats. And I can either trigger it by pressing play, like you can see on the screen. And then I can also use the drum pads here, which is pretty cool. And each of these slots here can house a clip. It could be a MIDI clip. MIDI clip kind of looks like this. Or it could be an audio clip that looks like this. Let's start with MIDI because it's somewhat easier. So this was a MIDI channel. I dragged a drum rack on, and then notice down on the bottom right-hand corner, I have so many different panes that I could click on. Here's my actual drum rack, and I just dragged on these samples. And then here is the clip view selector where you can see all of your MIDI information. And this is actually where you can enter or record different MIDI. You can draw it, like I'm pressing a B shortcut, and you can draw in a crazy amount of MIDI if you would like. I can, let me just solo this. S is for solo. And I'm going to put on this repeat function on the push. Let's put it on 16th note. Okay. That sounds pretty good. Now, what if I wanted to add this on top of what I already created? Would I use this record button? This record button? There's so many different record buttons. Look at the info view down here when I hover over this button. It says session record button. And that's the view that we're in right now, is session view, where we have all these clips, and it's going to be like a looping one-shot palette where we can populate ideas. So I'm going to start recording after I press this. And then it will loop back around. So I'm going to let go. And now I've recorded an additional MIDI instrument on top of that. Does that make sense so far? So far I drew in or I played these different MIDI instruments, and then I was able to overdub my MIDI on top. We could also start from scratch too. So like if you double click on any of these spots, it's just going to be totally empty. You have your headphone button on. Again, it's like blue, blue, blue. This is going to be this sort of cue headphone volume. You can hear each of the instruments, and then I either press B to start creating a drum beat if I wanted to. I could also play it live. I don't know. Do you guys want to hear me play something live? I could try to recreate what I just did, but that's it's a little hard, especially now that I have latency. I think I'm going to need the help of the old trusty metronome, which we're going to look at up here. I hope you guys don't mind my style of teaching. I like tossing people, I shouldn't say kids, I'm a kid too, into the deep end right away. So just making music and figuring out what all of the buttons do as we go. So this is the metronome button. The metronome volume is also tied to that cue headphone. And then there's this drop down. It's a count-in. So like if you need somebody to be like 1, 2, ready, record now. It just time to run to your synths, time to just take a breath and get ready. That might be helpful. And I have an immense amount of latency now with this new audio routing. So we'll see. This is good. This will be good practice. I have it soloed, and I'm going to press the session record. I didn't do so bad, even with the latency. Crazy. So that recorded 1 bar. It says start at 1 and ends at 2. So that's beat 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I made a little mistake here. I, doubled it here. So I might need to just highlight and like delete a little bit. And some of these are pretty off. So one helpful tool is to do a really cool option called quantize. Quantize basically takes these grid lines in the back and it magnetizes them. So it's going to take this MIDI note, it's going to go and magnetize it to the grid. Right now the grid is set to a 16th note, and you could, if you right click, you're going to have all these options. And I highly suggest just taking time to understand it, but maybe just focusing on these 2 things right now, quantize and quantize settings. Let's click quantize settings to see what we're going to quantize to. Perfect. It's exactly what I want. I want it to quantize to the 16th note. I'm going to click transform, and it has now, ideally, if you highlight all of them or select Apple A, then transform. See? It's magnetized it to the grid. Cool. Can you see the screen okay? Okay. I hope that you can all see it okay. So that's kind of an intro to creating MIDI. I like doing it by hand and then quantizing it. You can do it many different ways, but let's add some more elements to this. So I have this little 606 hi-hat thing. Let's see what this is. Turn up the volume. We can turn off that metronome. Now I'm going to add the hi-hat. I see that there is an A and B send, and I'm sure that you are starting to wonder, like, what are all these buttons here? These are the effect sends. They're associated with this channel A and B effect sends over to the right. And what it's doing is you could click and drag up and down and send a portion of the audio signal from that channel to this effects channel, which contains this one has a reverb and this one has a delay. They always have you set up that way. You could swap this out. You can delete this or use the hot swap button and find a different effect. All of your audio effects are here in the left. And I don't know, we're gonna go a little trancy, so let's get the reverb going. Um, let's look at some more MIDI instruments that have been populated. Sounds like a bass. And you can see it's actually playing on my push too. It's showing the MIDI that I've played. That's a fun one, right? So now I have three different elements, somewhat of an arpeggio that I actually created with a new tool in Ableton Live 12, which is this whole generate system, that's MIDI generation. There's so many new tools in Live 12. It's kind of overwhelming sometimes, but I think it's ultimately really exciting. You can generate MIDI if you don't feel comfortable performing MIDI or drawing it in. If it doesn't create enough variety, you can actually generate your own MIDI as well. And you could do a number of things. Let's do stacks because that's kind of easy. It's like chords. You can create chords without having to know how to play chords, but it will help with your music theory learning. So this is a G chord, and you could choose the inversion. Cool. So that's chord 1. Now let's do a plus sign and add another chord. And this chord, let's make a different chord and then a different version or inversion. Okay, let's see what that sounds like. Pretty simple, right? I mean, but if you're new at making chords, I think that can actually be really helpful. I think it's actually more exciting to generate different kinds of MIDI from rhythm to. I like the seed. It's kind of like an arpeggio. You put in what pitch you want. Let's do. I guess B flat is fine, and you can generate. You can add a number of voices. Ooh, let's actually do shape instead because you can actually like draw in what you want the MIDI shape to be. And I think this is pretty fun. Depending on what your key is, this is a new feature of Live 12. You can actually put in what the musical key is for the entire session, and it will adjust what notes are available to you, which is really cool. Though I know that I'm not going to play necessarily any bad notes, although that sounds more major than minor pentatonic. It's still beautiful nonetheless. And it's a sequence that I could actually use right away. So we'll find more opportunities to look at that. Now, I feel like my screen's getting kind of crowded, don't you? And I'm moving this up and down, and this is what happens. If you lose real estate on your screen, you can always open things up a bit. And you can always bring it back too. There's this bottom right hand corner, there's another, you see these yellowish orange icons on each of the corners. They have different areas for you to pop open and close different portions of the screen. I'm going to close this input output right now because we're just focusing on MIDI. Boom, it's gone. So we can focus on the MIDI itself and clips because I'd like to start combining things to make a track. So let's start from the beginning. How do I want to start this? Maybe I'd want to just start with the clip that doesn't have the toms. Now, as I'm triggering each of these clips, notice that no matter when I press play, even now, it starts playing on the downbeat. And down, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Which is really helpful. It keeps everything aligned. And same thing for the stop too. The stop is going to stop on the downbeat of the next track. That's pretty cool, right? Oh, somebody else wants your attention. This external synth. Let's get the camera going because I actually have a number of synths behind me, and we're going to work in this view now, which is called the arrangement view, and get into vocal recording. You ready for another view? You thought this was it for Ableton Live? No way. We've got a whole other view. The last corner icon that we haven't covered is this right here, which is either showing a session view where I'm just populating clips and ideas for playback, or I can go to arrangement view, and this is where you see your timeline. The timeline is going to go left to right. Everything's horizontal. And believe it or not, everything you see here and more, if I get my inputs and outputs back, everything you see here is also right here. It's just a different formatting. So one thing that's good for learners, early learners of live, is just try to match. See if you can find each of these items in the actual channel in arrangement view. This is your volume here. You can turn channels on and off. You can solo. These are your effect sends, that sort of thing. Now I've already started arranging some ideas to arrangement view, which is exactly where I should be doing that, but you didn't get to see me actually do it. So let's say I want to actually compose my song starting at, the very beginning. I have these clips. I'm just pressing tab to go back and forth. That's easier than using the mouse for me. And I can move these ideas by pressing copy and then going into that same channel, clicking where I want it to be, and press paste. That's one of many ways. I see that it's looped too, so it's really cool. When something's looped, it has this loop bracket that when you open it, it can endlessly just loop whatever that clip is. Easy, done. 3 minutes of drum beats. I did the same thing with the arpeggio and the bass. And then we were just about to get to some external synth audio recording, because I'm sure many of you want to start doing audio recording as well. I'm a synth player and synth lover, so more synth than vocals on my end. But come on over here. Notice that I just pressed the record enable on this channel. Same way that I did it over here, just in a different spot. And for my input output, I know that it's in my input 3 and 4, which is paired, meaning stereo. And let's see if you can hear these sounds. Can you hear these synthesizers? Cool. I don't know if you're interested, but yeah, this is a Korg OP6. We have a 1976 Yamaha CS10. And then we have a Roland SH101. And then this beautiful Asiotone. And they're all going through a mixer that I have here that then's going into my audio interface, which is why you can hear them all at the same time. So I'm just going to actually mute this one, start from the beginning, press this record this time, because this is actually the record button to use in arrangement mode. And I'm just going to go straight to tape, as they used to say. Let me give myself a 1-bar count in, no metronome after that, and let's jam it out. All right, that's something. How do we feel about that? Just a little noodle. Noodle didn't hurt anybody. Stop recording. It's still playing. I can still keep going with the track if I wanted to add more things. I like to try to keep the play button going, ironically, as I stop it. But I just wanted to circle back to see the audio that we recorded and some of the tools that you have to work with that audio. So this is a pretty low signal, actually. If I open up the clip view for that, you have a few options to increase gain. You can actually change the pitch as well. Um, and let's throw this through some effects. I have some effects that's running through, like a reverb and a delay pedal, but let's add more reverb by sending it to the effects end. I like it. Cool. So that's how you record an external instrument. Should we try to do some vocals now? I'm not a vocalist, but I like to do oohs and ahs once in a while. Um, I'm just going to use the microphone that I'm using to talk to you, which you can see is in channel 1. So the same way that you would do this over here, audio from external in 1. You can press the arm. And usually when you're recording with a microphone, you might have the monitor off because this is what you're going to hear when the monitor is on. Check 1, 2. Is there latency that you can hear? I feel like Space Lady. Check, check, 1, 2. So monitoring sends my voice through a processing chain and then back out to my ears. So it's going to be a little vibey. How do you change the effects type? I'm wondering if you could tell me more about that. If you ever want to switch out effects, you can just delete them, go to audio effects. You can use your search function, possibly let's say that you know you want a flanger. Type in flanger, it's going to show you all the audio effects that have flanger. Click and drag onto your audio effects device view here. And it just goes from left to right. The audio comes in. Let's just focus on this. See the green. It's moving through each of these plugins and ending up in the flanger phaser. Check 1, 2. So now that I have my effects somewhat set up, I'm just gonna select an area to loop. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but I just want to not think about recording and just get into performing. Um, this is the new issue of today is that you have to be a producer and an engineer and an artist and be a great singer and great at your instruments and know how to acoustically treat these. It's just so much. Know when you're hitting your limit. Sometimes I need to just jam out for a little bit. So I'm going to find an area of music, highlight that area, and then I'm going to press this loop button. We haven't touched this loop button yet. You can actually create a loop so that then I can jump in and it's going to cycle back on itself. And then if you show take lanes, what it's doing is a process called comping, which is very similar to other DAWs where you're just like creating new takes every time it loops back around. So you have options of what you'd like to use. Let's do a couple. I'm going to turn on the monitor and I'll talk to you after 4 takes. Thank you for putting up with me. So that was my 4-take vocal situation. And did you see how each time it cycled back, it started creating a new take, a new version of what I just did? Yeah, if you're starting fresh, like let's say I have just like a regular audio channel here. Again, there's my voice is on channel one. Arm it. You can right click, show take lanes, and then it's not going to show anything now because I don't have any. But once you start recording, it will start populating each take, and you could go on forever. The way that you select which take, you just press enter, and what you'll see in this comp lane up on top is what you're going to hear. Um, so let's try. Yeah, take lanes are a real lifesaver. I already did that with this one, which I actually feel a little bit better about. So I'm going to say goodbye to this one for now. I like that one. Or you can audition, you just see which one sounds the best. Cool. I'm getting out of loop. Any more questions about takes? You can do it with MIDI too. Let's say I want this one. No, I don't want that one. It's a great way to populate different takes without having the pressure of being perfect on the very first try. Does that make sense? That's a big one. This is a lot to learn, isn't it? You guys are doing great. I have so much more to show you. I can't even tell you. Just because I'm a synth nerd, I think maybe just showing you the other instruments that I populated. Okay, so this looks super tiny. I can't even tell what I did. So there's this awesome, and you can tell it's MIDI, right? Um, I'm gonna press this fold button, and look at that. These are all of the MIDI notes, the whole entire scale. And when you press fold, it only shows you the notes that you're using, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah, so again, takes are best done when you have a looping section that you're trying to record an idea, but maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do and you just want to loop and keep recording. It automatically creates different take lanes of each of your times around. And then after that, you can listen to each of them either by pressing this button or just pressing enter, and it will be the selected take. I hope that makes the most sense. Do you set how many takes you can do somewhere, or is it after you stop recording? That's a good question. I've only seen it continually populate, and I haven't actually found the limit to how many you can populate. So it's just, it's probably gonna get pretty crazy if you do like 20 takes, but whatever whatever the gold record needs. Um, so if you guys feel good about that, I want to go to a more complicated session where we're getting deeper into drum programming and getting deeper into the push three because we haven't seen this little puppy in a while. Is that okay for everybody? And actually, let me just take a moment to answer any questions. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to give a chance masterclass membership. Before you begin a song, how do you select a key? Two, how do you ensure all the notes you're using within work with that key? There are a couple of different ways. Sometimes I don't know what key I want to start in. I just want to play. But then eventually, it's default C major, but then maybe the melody that I write ends up being D minor. You can actually use, let me go to something that's melodic. Do I have a melodic? Yes. Um, so you can actually press the scale button. Like if this was set to the key that I'm in, if I press scale, it's like bumper bolding. And it's only showing me the notes that are within that key. So there's no way I can do a completely wrong note when I have the scale highlighted. Isn't that helpful? Um, Okay. Can you select multiple takes to layer? Yes, you can. It's like more advanced, so I didn't cover it, but you can actually select different sections of multiple takes and crossfade them together into your comp, which is pretty awesome. I would suggest looking into some videos. Take lanes were new in Live 11, so it should be available to everybody if you have Live 11. All right, let's do some drum programming. Because today we also have a special surprise after my time 7 p.m. I'm located in Milwaukee, but for you all it's going to be different times. But in 15 minutes we're going to transition into doing remixing. So let's get our drum beat skills kind of up to par so we can get into remixing a very special track, LPGOB's Love Come Through from her latest album, Doter. I think this is maybe one of two groups that we've had special access to the original stems to remix, and I'm going to give a link to all of you for that tonight. But let's get kicking. Do you guys mind if I turn it up slightly? Okay, so I have this drum kit loaded. You can see my push controller. This is associated with this button, and it's just all laid out the same way that it is on the screen. You can actually hear them too by pressing play, and you'll see the sample that it's starting to trigger. I have the repeat function on, which is a fun thing to do. Like Jeff Mills style. It's so much fun. I could have so much fun doing that. And I'm just playing it live. I didn't record anything. Let's say that I just was messing around on my MIDI controller and I was like, wait a second, that was actually really good, but I didn't record. What should I do? Well, usually before it was nothing, you lost it. But Ableton Live actually has a super sneaky MIDI only capture that remembers what you did only with MIDI. Check this out. That's what I just played and I wasn't recording. But using this capture MIDI, it also is looping for me, even though I didn't ask it to. But that's cool. So that's a really fun trick, isn't it? Just like we saw in arrangement view, clip view also has these sort of brackets that are for loops. And this is too much for me to look at, so I'm going to fold. And you can click this all and delete it. Let's do one more round where I'm actually MIDI overdubbing, because we haven't quite learned that yet. So let's go back to square one. This is what we had. It was just kick on every quarter note. This time I'm going to press session record, and you're going to see it populate and then loop back on itself. It's so much fun to do live. Hopefully I can do it justice. Okay, hands free, hands off. And I still see that my MIDI has been recorded, which is pretty awesome. Up here is where the sequence is if you want to get deeper into like sequencing. We're not going to get any deeper than this today. I think the main part is like but the push is so much fun just to have like a drum pad that's really reactive, and I just there's nothing like it, to be honest. I mean, there are other, you can use, let me try to move my camera and not break it. I have a MIDI controller here that you can also do the same thing. You can play drum pads on a MIDI controller. You just have to find what MIDI note is associated with which note. Okay, any questions about MIDI overdubbing? Because that's kind of a big deal. We did session record. We did sneaky capture MIDI. One important thing is that you have the MIDI arrangement overdub button clicked, because otherwise it might just override what's there. We want to overdub, not override everything. So yeah, let's start combining this with other things. Do you want to hear this drum kit? This is called the coping kit. I think we all need a coping kit right now. I love playing this stuff live too, because You can just be more intuitive. Okay, I'm getting some ideas of what I want to actually add to this. Maybe I want to do this in a live setting, but I just want to get you excited about drum programming. Again, your drums are found in your library. Just make sure that search is cleared out and you can open up your screen. And all your drum kits are here. You can, again, audition. All these .adg are going to be drum kits that look like, somewhat look like this probably, where you're triggering samples. Some of them are synthesized. You can also build your own drum kit like I showed you in the last session. But now that we have, I think this MIDI was generated. I think I used generate rhythm. You can generate rhythm by selecting an instrument. Okay, let's do that one. Generate rhythm. Let's do pattern 18, and you can make it dense. You can do step duration. Let's see what this sounds like. It's not quite in the same key as the other congas, so I'm going to leave that alone. Well, let's see how this dance track is starting to turn out with these three elements. There's one element that's slightly out of tune from the others, but generally I'm feeling pretty happy about it. Okay, let me just check the questions. Would it be possible to use an iPad instead of a MIDI controller? Yeah, you can definitely use an iPad. And actually, there's a really wonderful app that Ableton has come out with for iOS called Note. And you actually can start drum beats. I'm gonna look at the camera for this. This is kind of exciting. The Ableton Note app works on iPads and iOS devices, and you can actually create drum beats on the fly just when you're hanging out on the train waiting for whatever, and can actually share those sessions with live. So you can start something and then bring it into your session, which is pretty cool. I don't know any other DAWs that are like that. Okay, any other questions? Does Live 12 work with an older Ableton controllers? Old APC 40. I love APCs. If you can get it to work with APC, I'll be very proud of you. I don't know the answer to that question. Some things are not compatible, like old, but usually old. I've used old MIDI controllers before, and it's just a simple MIDI language. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I have an answer for that one, but good luck. Okay, let's add some audio. This is, again, my OP6. And notice how I'm like automating. This is the pan, left, right. Hopefully you're getting stereo. Right? You can actually automate it so it can move around. Here I'm automating sends and stuff, so that's kind of cool. I'm going to press this button to bring it back. So do you see, like, I changed it, I moved it around, and the red button went away, and all my automation went gray. This is the re-enable the automation to bring back what I had previously written. So it's going to loop back and forth, left, right, give you a little chorus effect. You can edit these parameters in clips in the envelopes. You can right click and insert a shape if you want. Like, let's highlight an area, right click, and you can insert a shape to your automation. You can squish it, crunch it, duplicate it, that sort of thing. And there's so many things that you could automate, both within the clip itself. Transposition's kind of a fun one for 808 kicks, or like if you want a moving bass line. And then you have your mixer and all of these parameters that you can automate. This is called automation whenever you see these red lines with the nodes. We have that in the arrangement view too, but we're not working in arrangement. Just time checking myself because I got 5 more minutes on this and I want to play it for you and move it into arrangement view. So do you see the sort of like cascading waterfall organization? I did that on purpose. I'm just gonna start arranging ideas horizontally into rows called scenes. I'm gonna say goodbye to the camera and we're gonna go back to the push because the push can actually be very helpful with this. If I go into this mode, this button right here is the same as pressing play on this main, which is going to play all the clips within that scene. And if everything's not soloed, we're going to start hearing the clips. I see them looping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, loop. I know it's looping because not only do I see that icon, I see this looping. If it wasn't looping, it would just stop. Does that make sense? Okay, now let's move down to the next scene. I can control my volumes. Okay, I'm going to jump down to scene 4. I can have different views on the push where I can actually see the MIDI itself, or I can zoom in. I can see the audio. I have this organized this way so I can start imagining what the song is going to do over time. Again, this is the Push 3 controller. It's actually an audio interface as well. You can use it to be a drum pad. You can use it to play any MIDI instrument. But let's go back and we're going to control the session view and DJ our song. This is the last one. Had to have a little bit of vocals. Okay, I have enough elements that I feel really good about where this is going in terms of production, or at least getting the framework of it. And I just literally copied these and pasted them down and organized by scenes or horizontal collections of clips. So I could start like DJing a flow. This is developing a workflow. Now I'm ready to move into my arrangement view where then I can export from here. You can't export your final track anywhere else but arrangement view. So let's get it in there. I'm going to press this record button, the big one, for the first time, actually, because we're recording anything that we do in session view into arrangement view. Or if you want to directly record into arrangement view, we might have done that already, yes, with the take lanes, but let's do it a different way now. I'm going to use my mouse this time. 2, ready, play. Pressing tab and you can see that it's populating. I'm going to jump down just for the sake of time. It's grayed out, but you see that it's recording. And then you kind of feel it out. I'm going to jump down to something you haven't heard yet. Does that sound like MIDI to you? Or a space saxophone? 2, ready, play. Still recording. And I'm just sitting back and enjoying the music and hanging out with you guys. I don't have to do it in rows. I could initiate other things. Doesn't have to be in the scene. One, two, ready, kick. Even while I'm doing this, if I want to fade things away, I have to make sure that I'm able to record my automation. Because you can mix it live too and record that into your session. Let's say that I want to stop this. 5, 6, 7, 8 stops. And I'm just gonna stop it here. Cool. I just made an arrangement, you guys. This is coming along. It's all grayed out. Press stop twice to go back to the beginning. Press play. It's still grayed out. What does that mean? Well, you know how we've been playing in session view? Now we've recorded some things into arrangement view. We got to tell Ableton Live that we want to hear everything from arrangement view now. So I pressed this orange button that was up here called the back to arrangement view. And now, because it's kind of confusing, Ableton Live, you can listen to audio from several different places. So, but right now we're locked into arrangement. And I've created somewhat of a flow. It's going to need some work. I can press A on my computer. Oops. A on my computer, and it will open up all these automation possibilities. Again, there's the red lines with the nodes where you can control your track volume. You can get into effects and specific things around instruments. You can automate basically anything, any knob or button you can automate in Ableton Live. It's one of the most flexible, dynamic, modular DAWs that you'll find. And if I wanted to export this, get my loop going, my loop bracket, find the area that I want to export, press File, Export Audio, and then we'll get into that in a little bit. But I just wanted to take a break, take a little breather with you all, because that was a lot of information. How are you feeling? Did you learn some new things, especially those who are seasoned Ableton Live users? Did you learn anything new? Cool. I'm going to get my camera on so I can see you all. I wish that we could all have our cameras on and be able to speak to one another. But we just have so many attendees that it's just not possible. Let's see. We have take lane questions that we answered. How do we gain access to the recordings after this session? Look out for an email from FemHouse. Their admin would be the best place to receive this recording, and maybe they'll host it somewhere. But definitely something to look back upon. I appreciate you all being here. So since you guys are being so excellent at asking really poignant questions that are pertinent to what we're doing, I think we're totally on track to move into remixing. And this is going to be a big endeavor. Are you ready to do remixing? Has anybody here ever done a remix before? All right. Remixing is a really fun process. That's actually how I got started producing music, is through remixing. Sometimes it's so much pressure to come up with something when you have just a blank palette, a blank DAW, you know? I usually recommend people start with their favorites and then move on up from there. But you know what else is pretty great to start with? Original stems from LPGOB from her latest record. And that's exactly what you guys are going to get tonight. Let me actually get that for you right now. And I'm going to drop it in the chat. It's a Dropbox link to the stems for LPGOB's Love Come Through directly from her and her production team. There it is. Can you see it? I can also ask if they send a follow-up. So they actually, FemHouse had a remix competition. I don't know if anybody's ever joined a remix competition before, but they had a remix competition and sent these stems out. We're outside of that range, but outside of the deadline. But they said if anybody here does a remix of Love Come Through, please send it to FemHouse. They'd love to hear it, and I think this is a really great way to learn from artists who have been doing this for a long time and who have been working with amazing engineers to get quality stems, great recordings. There's nothing better than starting with amazing stems. So, you normally get stems through some sort of folder. Here it's Dropbox. And let's see what they gave us. So it has the name of the song, stems, underscore, and then whatever the subgroup is. Uh, Normal productions, which, this is a question for LP, is like, how many tracks did you actually have on this song? It's definitely more than this. Like, all of the drum tops were layered. Here, all the instrumental, like violin, piano, that sort of thing, are grouped together. But then they did a nice thing and they gave us this extra folder of drum individual stems that breaks down the drum's top a bit more so that you can have a little bit more options of what you want to work with. But we're going to start with these stems. A lot of people, if it's like too many stems, get a little scared off from remixes. So if that's you, I would suggest maybe starting out with an acapella, maybe starting out with just Vox and going from there. Before I click and drag these and drag them in, I need to prep my session here. So when we import stems for remixing, this is really important. You need to look for clues as to what the original BPM is. Can you see what it is? 124 beats per minute, right? If somebody didn't give you the BPM, you could ask them. You could look it up online, or there's a tap button in Ableton Live. So if you're listening to it and you tap it, you can somewhat guesstimate what the BPM is. But the important part is that we need to set our project for that BPM before starting. So I'm going to type 124, enter. Perfect. So now when I import these stems, which is just as simple as clicking and dragging it in, we know that this is audio. These are audio stems. So I'm just going to get rid of these MIDI channels. We don't need that. I'm going to click the first one that I'm going to copy and the last one while pressing shift so it selects them all. And now I'm going to drag in, not let go. And this is a really important part too, is press Apple while you're dragging this in and it will create new vertical tracks for you. Do you see how it's all tied to my mouse? I'm not letting go. I'm holding on to my pointer mouse and then also Apple. And when you drop it down, it will start importing. Let's see what we have. I'm actually going to turn the volume down because these are final mix stems, and this is probably something you're going to need to do too, is to turn the volume down. And remember, this is volume and also this is volume. So either way that you can remember it easier. Because look at how thick some of this stuff is. Wow, beautiful waveforms. Um, I usually organize my stems with kick first, kick on the top, any drums, and then low end to high end, and then vocals on the bottom. So kick, drums top, bass. We have a diva arp. Let's listen to what this is. I actually knew what this was before I was going to play it, and it's my favorite part. I used it in my remix. And you can just press solo and get to know each of these beautiful stems that has been given to us. Do you hear that ducking? That's a side chain to this kick. So yeah, let's get into this. This is like a real session, you guys. Things that you don't need while we're listening to this. Any like the stems instrumental you don't need because this is a duplicate of the strings above. Um, let's click double stop to go to the beginning, and let's make sure we are on the right tempo. 1, 2, 3. Did you guys notice how there's like this whole section of just like an intro? We don't necessarily need it. You could delete it if you wanted to. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to hover over the arrangement view, right click and put add locator. Locators are so helpful. Start song. Um, You can use them as a marker for like verse one and keep track of what the form of the song is. They also serve as playback functions as well. Um, just circling back to repeat the drag and drop process. Um, if you find your group of stems, again, setting your BPM to match the BPM of the stem group. Click the first, click the last while pressing shift. I know that's a lot. Or you could just drag however you feel comfortable. Then you drag and hover over and make sure that you don't let go. And I'm pressing Apple and do you see how it goes from horizontal to vertical? Yep. And that's how you drag and drop it in. And it will automatically generate a new audio track for each of your stems. And it should automatically be aligned. So let's start our song. Now, I could actually take the tempo up. Oh, but you know, it's not doing it because it's not warped. Let's listen to it just as it is before we warp so we can get to know what we're working with. Yes, Command is an Apple button. Should try Control on a Windows. Beautiful vocals, right? Marker. And the love comes through. And the love comes through. That's the title of the track. Love comes through. So let's mark that as an important moment. I know I'm moving fast, but hopefully you're seeing I'm like able to solo different channels and just kind of poking around. Let's keep going. And the love comes through. And the love comes through. Piano. Kalimba. Can you imagine your own song using this stem? I kind of like this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to split this from the rest of it. Right click and add a special color to it. Because I like this so much. Visually, I want to know. I'm going to come back to it. Let's listen to these vocals. Oh, jeez. I like that too, that vocal part. Isn't that cool? Yeah, if you just right click on the header of any clip, you can actually use colors to organize how you're approaching the remix, or any mix, really. It's just something to visually help, get through all of the audio. And this is all open right now. I can close and open. You can do that by dragging this open, or I can select all and close it and open it. Take some navigating, but you'll get used to it. This is a big session. So visually, I know I want to use this and this vocal. Okay, let's skip ahead. Okay, let's say that I want to select this section too. If you want to select a section, all you gotta do is click within the clip like this and just drag the area that you want. You can always use your loop selector too, but this is an easier way for me. I select an area that I want to sample. And then I can right click and use the split function or Apple E. There's so many shortcuts. Don't feel like you have to use shortcuts right away. but it's basically splitting it from the rest of the track, and then right click, and we have this whole color wheel down here. Yeah, there you go. Cool. And you can change all these colors to your heart's desire. Um, yeah, shortcuts are a lifesaver. Okay, so let's get to the finale. It's already pretty loud, isn't it? And I have the volume down pretty far. That's what happens when you have great stems sums. Do you hear a string instrument? Let's listen to this Juno pad first. Oh, we already listened to that. Fake strings. Live strings. Do you want to use classical instruments in your remix? Yay. What a beautiful track, right? So what we just did together is just listen through, looking at the waveforms, identifying areas that are kind of standing out to me as places where I might want to actually sample them or copy them and start building a totally new track. I might want to do something like actually just clicking copy on this little guy. Which one is this one? This is the vocals. Yeah, let's work with vocals first. And then press tab and then go over to the vocals, which is hard to see because all the tracks start with the title of the track, you know? So you can open this up to see. Sometimes it gets a little long and you can just like rename Vox. Oops. Chant. So it's a little easier to see. And then paste that same clip and it's going to show you. Now I want to loop this. In order to loop this audio, I'm going to have to warp it. And warping is going to require a little sample analysis where the audio is basically like being pinned to a stretchable rubber band that then we will be able to change tempo. And actually, at this point, since we locked in our BPM, I would select all and warp them all at this point. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going to have time for that. It might take a while. So let's just go one by one. And I want to show you the remix that I did. And I went a totally different direction. But this was a main loop that I ended up using. So let me just get my notes because there's so many ways that you can go about remixing. So we did find BPM, import stems. We did markers. We did slicing. One more slicing tip is that, like, let's say that you found an area like this one that you want to loop. In order to loop again, you can select an area and then just press your loop button. You can move this around. You can, when you click on the loop itself, actually, let me get the push view up for you too, because we're going to get into some push work. And the shortcut on Apple is Command L for loop. And let's warp this really quick. Warp. So now I'm just going to have this soloed. So did you see how this clip that's warped was changing with the BPM, and it's going to stay in time no matter what the BPM is, which is pretty cool. And if I wanted to slice this whole section, oh, that's kind of hard because it's like this is a downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. What we can, let's just do that. Let's do slice from this downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 2. three, four, one, two, three, four, two, three, four, stop. Okay, so this is the loop that I want to have. And I'm going to right click on this loop header. And there's this option to consolidate time to new scene. Whoa, what does that mean? Let's press it. Consolidate time to new scene. I didn't see anything happen over here, but let's press tab into session view and look, it's sliced that section for all the instruments for you. One. And looped it for you. I'm going to take some elements away. My favorite part of the remix stems is actually the auxiliary percussion. They're really good. I think that LP is actually brilliant at like producing and also DJing like auxiliary percussion that has these beautiful swells and risers, and like there's like a little like samba vibes. It's like I love this shuffle that she's using too. So I'm definitely going to use this drum top, and so you can change the length of how long that loop is. I can repitch it. Which is kind of fun. But let's get into some vocal editing because I think that's kind of what a lot of people think of when they think of remixing, right? It's like, how do you work with vocals? And there are a couple ways. I'm actually going to open a set where I have already um, done a little bit of work on it, importing. I guess I have already been doing that. Let's just do this really quick. So what I want to do is actually create a MIDI instrument. Just hang with me for a second. A MIDI instrument. It's an old one that's been with Ableton for a long time called Simpler. I don't have any MIDI channels. I only have audio channels. What am I going to do? No worries. You can right click, insert MIDI track, or if you grab a MIDI instrument and you drag it here, Ableton Live is going to know what it is. So I'm going to go to Simpler, drag it on over, drop it. This was one of the earlier instruments from Ableton Live, and it still holds up to this day. You drop samples in, and you can actually play with them in really unique ways. So we have this audio sample that I've been into of the vocal chant, and let's drag it onto the Simpler. So we're like importing that vocal into this instrument. And now I have my push controller on. Take a look at the camera. If I play two at the same time, do you hear what's happening? One is playing 2 times as faster because it's playing an octave higher. So this is what audio playback is without warping, is that it's either playing faster or slower to get a higher pitch or a lower pitch. That's a little too slow. So what we can do is actually press warp on this. And now when I do that same thing, it's going to be in the same time. Check this out. Isn't that cool? You could do that with anything. You could sample any note in the track, in the remix stems, and import it into Simpler and create a totally new instrument, which is pretty fun. Um, and the audio itself, you can, I was showing you earlier, you can mess with pitch. There's so many different audio effects that you can use too. And if you want to get real choppy with it, you can use that splice shortcut or the split shortcut that I was showing you earlier and start a new track and just start like populating like little ideas, just make them real small, or editing using these fades, creating totally new textures from working with audio. There's so many different ways that you could use it. One last thing before I'm going to transition to our final project, which is the remix that I worked on to show you, and then answer any questions that you have. Are some more advanced tools that Ableton Live offers for coming up with new ideas from audio stems. So I'm going to loop this into B, an 8-bar phrase, 7 and 8, 2, 3, 4, start. Okay, so we have this beautiful auxiliary percussion loop. If I right click on it, there are a number of options that you can actually extract rhythms, you can extract melody and harmony from audio. It's crazy. You can do it from a fully produced song. It's not perfect. It's definitely not going to be perfect. But if you tell Ableton, these are just algorithms, convert this drum to a new MIDI track. Let's just see what happens. You never know what's going to happen. I'm going to turn the volume down on it. It automatically assigned to 606. This might be terrible, but let's see what it gave us. Does that sound like this? Isn't that funny? But it's kind of helpful actually if you want to just get the groove of something and like look at all this dynamic hi-hat work and like the shuffle itself. I mean, it would take you a really long time to try to like recreate that. So extracting that actual the MIDI from or extracting the drum beat from the audio is a great way to get started and have some material, and then you can swap this out with another drum kit of some kind. Let's just double click and see what this one is. That one's very light. So yeah, it's just starting to maybe like start to replace elements of the remix with something that's different. And then now you have MIDI that then you can edit and add on to or delete, which is cool. Let's go back one step to do the simpler process again, because this is really important. I would love for you all to feel really comfortable with using simpler. Simpler is in your instruments. And down on the bottom, simpler, drag it out. It's a MIDI device that requires an audio sample to be dropped in here. I have an audio sample right here is in the form of a clip. So I click on the simpler and then I click on the audio clip and drag it on in. Do you see the plus sign? And there it is. Does that make more sense? Yeah. And these envelopes right here are going to change how the playback of it is going to happen. And it gets deeper into synthesis, but right now this is like a weird hybrid of synthesis and audio. So I have a long attack time. I can have a short attack time. Take the decay down, which is kind of cool. Another thing that I didn't show you is that you can also go into slice mode, and you could slice by transient. So like identify where audio is happening when something is actually playing, or like a transient is like when you hit a cymbal, that initial peak of audio is identified as transient. So we have all these transients that were identified, and you can go down in sensitivity or up. And my push 3, if you look on that screen, you can actually see it populate with different samples. I kind of like that one. That might be something you might be interested in, is like taking a track importing it into simpler and going into slice mode and seeing what different slice samples it's giving you. What do you think? That's pretty cool. Okay, so 7:30, we're entering our last time together, and I'd just like to open the fully produced remix for you all. Uh, Everybody does it different, you know? There's no right way to do anything. As long as you're having fun and you're feeling like you're in a creative flow, don't let the computer win. It's just new tools, and I'm sure a lot of this is, too much to learn, but it's going to start flowing and just focus on the tools that you need to start being creative today. Remixing is a tall one because you're dealing with a lot of different channels and group movement and that sort of thing. But I think that's why it's a great place to start actually as a producer. Beautiful content to work on. Okay, so would you guys like to hear the remix that I worked on? I'll kind of solo things along the way. See if you recognize anything that was in the original. I think you might know the track pretty well by now, but this is a much different situation. I'm utilizing groups. See how this is like 3 lines. You can open and close it. These are called groups. I could group this whole thing if I want. Just kind of like selecting your remix stems. You can click on the first, press shift and click on the last. You can right click and do group tracks. And it's just like putting something in a parent folder. But also it routes your audio to that parent folder, which is very, very helpful when you get into larger mixing sessions. I wanted the Vox to be separate from all the other instruments. And the instruments, I had so many different kinds. Like, look at all the percussion. Let's just dive into the percussion. I used a lot of her auxiliary percussion stuff, kind of layered. This is blue because I have it frozen. I got to the point where I had so many tracks that my computer was slowing down. If that happens to you, you can select a channel, right click, and do freeze track. And that will just kind of like freeze um, the you won't be able to edit it. You can always unfreeze and then go back to editing, but freezing is like printing a temporary sum of everything that's happening. So like all of the processing that's happening, and it really saves on your CPU usage. So yeah, if you get into too many tracks and computer's slowing down, check your CPU load, which is right here. I'm at 4%. But yeah, utilizing freezing is a great thing. Let's listen to some more groups. Swell effects. I love swells. I love sound designing, motion, and movement. Let's see what that sounds like within the context and if you can even hear it. Recognize anything here? Diva harp. Now I took a clip of it. And I just copied and pasted real fast. What I probably could have done a little bit better is to make sure that I'm cross-fading these clips, right? So that it's a crossfade from one to the other. See if you can hear the lack of click. Oh, I guess this is a quiet part. Where does it get loud? Did you hear that click? Not there. stay ahead of the game. So some of that it requires tedious work, but you can always just duplicate and then duplicate. It's very easy to populate both automation and creative ideas in Ableton. Let's check out some more subgroups. Plux. Anybody into pretty silly cosmic trance music? I found this really cool instrument that I put on an arpeggiator. Oh, oh, really? You prefer to be frozen? This one prefers to be frozen, everybody, sorry. But I'm doing tons of automation and changing parameters constantly and adding these, just like grit. It's such a beautiful song. Love come through. And I was just thinking about how love has to come through something. Sometimes it might be a little grit that it needs to get through a little mud. Um, and so, yeah, I like to add a little grit and then add a little bit of minor, not just major all the time. So let's start right here and I'll play through the track and be quiet and then answer questions about it. Thank you for listening. Aw, thank you. I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. Um, I tend to be a little bit of a maximalist. So one thing, if you're a maximalist like me, is it's nice to mute things once in a while and rein it back. You might have noticed some areas that are gray. You can click any of your clips and just press 0 just to mute it. So just auditioning what it's like to like have this drum beat, go and then to stop 5, 6, 7, 8. Like just little things like that sometimes can add more interest. Um, with rating things back can also bring more interest. I'm trying to relearn and remember, but this is kind of similar to what I tend to do musically. I like to add interesting things like SFX and environments, a little sci-fi nature. Here, I put in some birds that wasn't in the original. Let's see what that sounds like. You might recognize that sound. Exoplanet? That's a cool sound, isn't that? That's actually an instrument. I believe that's a meld. That's a new instrument from Meld. This is what it looks like. And it's using this oscillator called Rain. And isn't it beautiful? I wish we had time to get deeper into synthesis. If you're interested in designing sounds and getting deeper into synthesis, the producer DJ Mini Bear is going to be offering a free sound design synthesis workshop in March through FemHouse. So check out their website for that. I know she'll probably cover Meld as well as other things. But altogether, my SFX environment sounds like this, and creating an immersive ambient space. Synth and ARP. That's actually probably my favorite part. I was thinking of Giorgio Moroder because that means love come through. And I was thinking about Giorgio Moroder, and I was like, I want to like call upon his spirit, but also have like a new quirky trance vibe. So um, hopefully I've landed that mark for you all. I'm gonna go to the box and the box, the Q&A box, and see if I've answered any of your questions or if you have anything left with the last like 10 minutes or so that we have together. If you have anything else that you'd like to say or questions. Um, when something's not working, how do you troubleshoot? Troubleshooting is a skill set. It requires a a cool a cool mind, not to get worried about it and just to think scientifically and working backwards. There's actually, speaking of other presentations coming up, there's going to be a presentation on troubleshooting soon with DJ Mary Drop-ins. And I don't know if she's going to do anything in Ableton Live, but she's going to cover troubleshooting with DJing, and I'm sure it's a very similar approach. Your tactics of troubleshooting depends on what the problem is. I like to use multi-sensory signals so when I'm talking, I know my microphone's working because I can see it here. Just having areas where you can double check something, um, and usually it's something stupid. Let's see. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Is there any reasoning to remember the different colors, or is that personal preference? Totally personal. What constitutes a remix? What percentage of the stems do you typically use? Excellent question. I heard a story about Aphex Twin once that he had just he would really delay giving people remixes, and then they'd be like, "I'm coming over to pick up my remix," and then he just would use like the tiniest bit of a track and then just do all his own original material. So there's a wide variety. There are other people who use the vocal track as is and then just put new percussion instruments underneath. There's no rule about it. It's really whatever you want to do. But I think what's important is that you enjoy what you're doing and that you find your own creative voice through the process. Because I hope you can see that, yeah, hopefully you can hear my creative voice through this process and how it differs from the original and the spirit and the messaging. And I like to uplift whatever the messaging is of the track itself. This one obviously is a very heartfelt, compassionate one. And I wanted to uplift the tranciness and make it more cosmic. So that was the direction that I had. I'd say maybe I use like six stems, like only little portions of it. We did the vocal sampler already. Do you create your own sound effects or do you use a lot of samples from Ableton? I actually collect my own samples and then I also use a service called Splice. Anybody else use Splice? It's a membership or like credit based system where you can like type in, I want to, oh, it's not going to work for me. I'd like a rain stick sample and they'll give you a bunch. But what's really exciting is when you can actually record your own samples and start building up your own samples yourself. And you can go into the samples section here and it will give you all of the samples throughout Ableton Live from every keyboard, every instrument that uses audio. It's going to have a sample. I also have things like, a sample portion of my external hard drive that I can keep different samples that I might want to use on a drum, like a drum rack that I play live or just like something to work in. Any other questions from you all? You guys are doing great. What's your favorite thing that you learned today that you're going to use right away? I'd love to hear feedback. I just really appreciate you all being here today. Aw, understanding scenes. Yeah, audio takes. Yes. I heard that Rando is amazing, and Rando is an additional plugin that can organize all of your samples and then combine them in unique and unusual ways, which is really fun. But remember, you can always use Simpler and Sampler to continue your sample exploration and turning them into full instruments. Have so much fun with producing music, everybody. I think we're about done for today, unless there are any final questions. But I hope that you feel inspired to make some music this year, to get whatever your creative voice is and what you want to say with your art out into the world, and to get to that export button and to send it out into the world or turn this into a live performance. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you out there making music, and feel free to contact me anytime. I'm on Instagram as Lorna Dune with 3 U's. And thank you so much. We're going to close for today. Thank you. Bye bye.